Hey everyone, in this tutorial we're going to take a look at how you can import your animations from iClone and other sources into Unity. We'll cover the differences between animation preview and auto setup and animation in gameplay mode, as well as how to import motions without character meshes. Finally, you'll learn how you can switch and combine these animations in Unity. Please check out the Unity auto setup tutorial for the best workflow to get your character creator characters into Unity. Okay, let's start off by importing a character with motions into Unity. With your character selected, simply go up to Export the FBX from the File menu and choose the Unity Target Tool preset. In this scenario, we're going to export both mesh and motion and choose the current animation. It's important here to deselect first frame in bind pose since Unity Auto Setup doesn't need this for calibration. To export a lighter character and avoid skin and clothing mesh conflict, it's recommended to enable Delete Hidden Faces. Subdivided mesh will generate a smoother exported mesh. Once that's done, over in Unity, I'll create a CC character folder and drag the FBX and associated files in. Again, be sure you've installed the Unity Auto Setup before you proceed to go up to Import Characters from the Reillusion menu. Auto Setup will detect the Kevin FBX in the project. From there, select Refractive Eyes and Feature Everything, then click on Build Materials. This will produce a prefab for our character. We can simply click and drag that prefab into our hierarchy to get it centered in our scene. Okay, let's look at how to preview and adjust the animation now. In the Auto Setup panel, you'll find a button to bring up the Animation Preview player. If you click on the animation, it will find it in your assets where you can easily rename it and play back to preview. In the animation preview window, there are a number of options you can use to adjust the facial expression, including eyeball, mouth, eyes, and expression templates. You can also fine-tune your character's body animation by going to Animation Adjustment and Retargeting in the Auto Setup panel. You'll find a number of adjustment options here, but be aware that an adjustment made to any frame will affect the entire animation. Once you save your changes, it will generate a completely separate animation which you can load up in Preview as well. Finally, there's also an option in the Animation Retargeting tool panel to copy and retarget all of the blend shape animations to other characters in your scene. Be aware that the preview only works in scene mode. Next, let's move on to animation in gameplay mode. In the Character's Inspector properties, you'll see an Animator component, so let's go over to the Animator tab where we can see that the Kevin_talk motion is being used. I'll rename the animation state node for consistency. From there, you can preview the motion in the Inspector panel. Now once we press play, the animation will play back in game mode, and you can also go over to the animator to see the playback status in our animation state. Okay, now let's move on to importing multiple motions to an existing mesh in Unity. In Character Creator, if I want to find motions in Explorer, I can right-click and select Find File. In this case, I'm going to copy the entire folder structure, then go up to FBX Export once again. Again, use the Unity Target Tool preset. I'm only going to choose Motion this time, and go to Custom and enter the folder path I just copied. I'll choose two animations here, and again, remember to uncheck first frame in bind pose. It will export as a single FBX containing all of the motions, which we can then import to the animation subfolder we created earlier for our character. We can expand that FBX to see the included animations and preview them in the inspector. However, there is still one little thing we need to do before we apply it to our character. In the Inspector panel, go to the Rig section and select Humanoid for animation type. And select Copy from Other Avatar. From there, we'll want to choose our Kevin avatar that was created when we imported in the original mesh. Once that's done, you'll see all of the animations that we just imported available in the Animation State node. Simply select the animation that you want to run and then play back. You'll see it play back in game mode. You can do this for any of the animations that you imported. Obviously, in an actual game scenario, you'll want to do more than play back a single animation on loop, so let's take a look at a super simple example of how we can combine multiple animations in Unity. I'll start by returning the Kevin talk state back to its original motion, and then proceed to click and drag our other animations into our animator. After they're in, I'm going to right-click on the original animation state and create a transition to connect it to our pose animation. I'll then do the same thing to create a transition between our pose and walk. To test it out, I'll drag the animator panel to the side, focus on our animations, and play back. You can see that all of the animations will play back in sequence with a blending interval between to ensure that they combine together smoothly. This timing can be adjusted, but that's a topic for another tutorial. If you've blended them together nicely in iClone, chances are that they won't be too hard to do so in Unity. One thing you'll notice though is that the Unity auto setup reverts animations to a root motion type by default. This may not be ideal for some scenarios, so let's take a quick look at how we can modify this in Unity. If you go over to the Animator section of your inspector with the character selected, you'll see Apply Root Motion is selected by default. With certain animations like this lunge, this will cause foot sliding or other issues unless you bake the position of one or multiple axes. In the animation section of the Motion FBX, you'll see the option to bake each individual axis position with the Bake into Pose checkbox. Here I'll just choose the Y position and apply to ensure that any movement the character's body makes will be locked on that axis to avoid the foot sliding issue we saw earlier. This allows us to do all of the motion blending in iClone by utilizing the various intuitive motion tools, and then import into Unity for more flexible use and smooth transitions. That's it for this tutorial, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.